Hey everybody, my name is Ben Leer. I'm the daylighting specialist at 475 High Performance Building Supply. And today we're in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn, and we're over in a landmark district, and we're going to show you guys how to install simulated double hung windows. These are high performance windows from BEWISO. They're an Austrian company, make really high-end all wood windows, and these are really specifically designed for these landmark situations. So what we have here is what seems to be a traditional double hung window. We have everything matched perfectly, even the dividing muntin here down the center. This is all to match the historic language of the neighborhood. We had to do the whole approval process, get everything stamped off. So traditionally, we have our sliding double hung windows, and we've used that for the last 150 years here in the States. Unfortunately, as we're moving towards really better air tightness and higher performance, we found that this gap here, there's no way to make that airtight. So what's really nice about these BEWISO windows is that you have an operable bottom sash based off more of the European style window where it's a tilt and turn. So what we actually have is an in-swing window here, so it's turning in, and then this top sash is fixed. So we have the turn capability as well as the tilt capability. So we can actually tilt and have continuous ventilation without having that impediment of the in-swing window. Today here we're going to be working with CityLine Interiors. They are a high-performance builder. They've done a lot of passive house work, and together with Mario we're going to go through how to install one of these windows in a very high-performance way. Before we begin, I'm going to go over the components. We have the BEWISO window, of course. This is the AN series, so it's not passive house certified, but it's very, very high performance, having a total R value of almost an R8. So that's really, really high levels of insulation and air tightness. So that's the AN series, and the components that we're going to use today, of course, as always, are CLIMA tape. So this is the TESCON PROFIL window tape. It's got a 3-release back strip here. We're going to use our sill flashing tape, our EXTOSEAL ENCORS, also made by CLIMA. This is a completely watertight, workable, flexible sill flashing tape, and we're going to use this just to prep out our sills on the bottom of the window. The final component is this sheep's wool insulation. So we're using this sheep's wool from HAVELOCK wool. It's a loose fill insulation that we're going to use to insulate around the frames of the window. So this way we're eliminating any thermal bridging from happening between our window and our window buck. And here is one unit that's already been installed, and you can see the PROFIL tape as our air tightness around the entire window. Now let's move over and see how we can prepare a rough opening and get really the install process started. This is what the prep rough opening looks like. So as you see, we filled in all the cavities with insulation. We've also blocked out with our plywood buck around the top and our reinforced 2x4s here at the sill. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the sill is nice and waterproof. We are going to clean our area, make sure we're dust free, and then we're going to apply EXTOSEAL ENCORS as our sill flashing tape. We're going to make sure that we are just covering really the sill. We're going to go up just about an inch on either side. This tape is extremely watertight, but it's also vapor closed. So we only want it in the areas where we're going to have standing water. And this tape, like the TESCON PROFIL, also has 3 release strips. So I'm going to use the middle release strip here first. The window is going to sit right in line with the brick right behind there. So I really want this to sit directly under my window. Always have your press fix tool on you and really just work it into the corners. This tape is really flexible. As I apply it to the brick, I don't need any primer. It's very, very adhesive. You can see that we have all the hardware on top. This is what's carrying the weight of the sash. So in order to remove this, we're going to pop out the top here. And then it's locked in 3 different places. 1, 2, 3. We're pretty much going to make sure that we're clear on all sides and lift that up. Now the second part is we're going to close the window again, tilt it back, and then lift it off its pin there. So as Mario's preparing the inside of the frame here, what we're doing is we're blind taping. So we're taping to the window before we actually install it. This way you don't see any of that tape on the reveal. He's using the smallest strip here as the blind tape, and then he's folding back the larger strip so that we can actually tape this to our air barrier once the window is put in place. You can see here that he's making these bunny ears, and that's really important in the corners so that we have continuous air tightness. So what you're doing is you're overlapping 2 times what the rough opening here is, so we have about a 1/4 inch around on all sides. He's making about a 1/2 inch bunny here. So here we go, going over our tape spot, the press fit tool. Ready to flip it? Yep. I was making sure that the surface is clean and dust free before he applies any of the tape. The tape will stick to the dust and not to the surface. So a nice little trick of connecting the tape seamlessly is removing the 2 release strips on the corner here and attaching that front piece to that. So now we have one continuous airtight seal around the entire window. Now Mario's applying some standard painter's tape. We make sure that our side that hasn't been released yet is going to be flush on the inside, so when we install the window we'll have access to this. And then this release strip will be pulled off and attached to our air barrier. So now as we're infilling that brick cavity between the frame, we're using the HAVELOCK sheep's wool, all natural sheep's wool from the byproduct of the wool industry over in New Zealand. It's produced in California. Has a little bit of borax added to it to make it fire resistant. It's a really nice material. This is a good replacement for the spray foam that you would typically use around the windows. This material won't increase the chances of any moisture to build up between the frame and the brick. That foam would be hydrophobic and would trap some of that moisture and increase rot. So now we're using a vapor open material, a sustainable material, and a really nice material to work with. Coming from California and using here in Brooklyn, we're very excited to have this around our windows. So now that the window is put into place here, Mario's making sure that everything is sitting exactly where it wants to on the sill. So we actually have to be a certain depth specific for landmarked. So we need to be about 4.5 inches back from the brick face. We're going to use these shims to make sure that everything is nice and line. And then we're going to actually screw through the frame in this case. So there's a couple different ways to install these. Today we'll be screwing directly through the frame, back to our blocking, that plywood buck, and then we're going to actually cap those screw tops with a small white cap so that you don't see anything on the inside. Once the window's put in place, we have the insulation around our frame. Mario's taking off the blue painter's tape and getting ready to release that final release strips on the profile and tie that back so we have a nice airtight seam all the way around the window. As he's pulling the release strip away, he's making sure that it's getting fully adhered directly to the rough opening. You can see he can do this continuously in one motion, making sure that you have a continuous seal here. The beautiful part of that blind taping method is, as you can see, there's no face taping on the window frame, so whatever our finish is, we can really come up right to the edge of this window and you won't see any of the tape. We're taking back our bottom operable sash. What we're going to do is we're going to put this back into place. Mario and I are going to lift it. We're going to hinge it right on the corner pin first. So we're going to sit it right in place like it was operating. You feel it on that pin there, Mario?
Yeah.
So now that we're here, you can see if we're on there, if we're caught by opening the unit. I think we're good. Catch it up. Yeah, so the unit is sitting right in place, so the bottom corner is put in place. Now we have our hinge, and as I mentioned before, there are 3 different portions, 1, 2, 3, that the unit is all going to sit on. There you go. So now we're all clicked into place, all 3 are secure. I'm going to lock that in place, and now the unit is carried by all the weight of the hardware. So now we have the fixed sash, the operable sash put back into place. Here we go. And with our handle, we're going to make sure that everything is lined up properly. And we get a nice closed, tight seal. Don't need the suction cups anymore. And we see that our operable sash is in good working order. We can turn it, and we can tilt it. So this is all installed. Now that we have it in place, we can lock it up, remove the handle so that when we do all our finish work, nothing gets damaged. And that's how we install a simulated double hung window. This is a great result. Thank you guys. Really good.